All right, everybody, thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, from realtors, lenders, builders, developers, residential or commercial, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivate these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Our very special guest and featured titan for today, Brandy Brown. Brandy, thanks so much. I'm so excited and honored to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
This is great, and I know that everybody is in huge anticipation to really dive in just to get to know you a little bit better, personally, professionally, the whole nine. So if you're all right, let's just jump in.
All right, sounds good.
So let's just start with telling everybody a little bit about yourself.
I am from upstate New York. I grew up in a small town called Hannibal. It's right outside of Oswego. And
Okay.
when I turned 18, I went to college and tried to do that little college thing. Didn't work out so well for me. And
Fair enough.
so I joined the Army
Okay.
and went off into the Army. And I was a military police officer for 6 years.
Wow.
So I traveled around quite a bit. I have 4 kids, ages 21 all the way down to 10.
It's huge.
I've been married for 16 years and follow my husband around the Army
Okay.
quite a bit. And then that's me.
Yeah, I love that going through it. And so I want to talk about the Army for a second because I think that that's such a huge thing. And again, thank you so much for your service. I know that there's so much to that and what we do as Americans we take for granted, the sacrifice and everything that's out there. So I truly appreciate that, and I know that a lot of the viewers do as well. So what was the thought getting into the Army, and what was that like for you, kind of going through it?
4'11",
Okay.
so I always have something to prove.
Love it. You hear this?
I wanted to be law enforcement.
Okay.
And I didn't want to go to college because that just did not work out for me. It just
Yeah.
wasn't my thing. So I went down to the recruiter's office, and he was like, "You're way too short to be an MP." And I was, really? And he called me back so I walked out. I was like, forget it. 3 days later, he called me back, and he said, they just lifted the height requirement for military police. And I walked down there in the middle of winter in Oswego on Lake Ontario. I walked down to the recruiting office and signed all the paperwork. And so, the Army is really, it kind of just shaped who I am, really, honestly. You get so much discipline and respect for other people. And the people that were in the Army, those are my brothers and sisters for life, forever and ever, no matter where I go or what I do. If I'm in trouble, I have them, and I will always have them. It's just, it's a bond that you can't even explain it. It can never be broken. And that's kind of how I focus my business too. Like, we're in a town of 4 military installations here.
Right.
And it's kind of a really big deal for me to be able to reach out to a veteran or an active duty military and say, I know your struggle on both sides. I know what it's like to be a vet. I know what it's like to be an Army wife. So I see the soldier side where they're like, I gotta just get my family in a house and I'm gonna deploy and I'm gonna do this, and I see the spouse and the family and what they go through trying to pick up, move, change jobs, change schools, and go through all that. So
Unreal.
that's just kind of something that really resonates with me as far as that goes. But yeah, it's Wear Red Friday. Remember everyone deployed. So big shout out to everybody that's currently serving overseas and protecting this country. And that's, if you asked me what is, this big deal and why the military, well, that's a big deal. Discipline and focus and strategy, and the people and the bonds that you build are incredible.
Wow. And I love that. And forget everybody to get a little bit story into background into who you are. And I absolutely agree that translates into who you are as a professional today. So I would love to kind of go into that section. So what was it about real estate? So from transition from there to real estate, why real estate, to the progression to where you are today in your own office here, which is beautiful, by the way.
Well, thank you. Well, when I got out of the Army, I went and worked for a securities company, and I just ran their office. And my husband and I decided we were going to sell our house and buy a bigger house because we had outgrown that. And my lender, I was doing them in new builds, and you know how things change in a new build. And I walked in the new build, and this beautiful staircase I wanted, they had altered it. And they had altered it because we're veterans, and VA has requirements about stairs and railings and all of this other stuff.
Interesting.
And so they don't they couldn't build it in the original design.
Okay.
So here I am. The first thing I do is call my lender and my realtor, and I'm throwing this absolute fit about the staircase that I can no longer have.
Sure.
And, this should have been explained, and this, and, my lender was like, have you ever thought about being a realtor? Pause, long, drawn-out pause. What?
Wow.
And she was like, you're feisty, you're on fire right now, you understand the lending, you understand how it is to deal with bills. She's like, you should get a real estate license. So I went home and signed up for real estate courses.
Wow.
Went down to Nashville, Tennessee, and took the real estate classes in Nashville for about 2 weeks. Took the test in 2005. I became a realtor.
Unreal.
And that's just kind of how I got into real estate. I started in Tennessee, in Clarksville, Tennessee, a little mom and pop brokerage that had been around since the 70s, family owned and operated, Honeycutt.
Okay.
Honeycutt Realtors. And I went from there we went to Hawaii. I stepped out of the marketplace there,
Okay.
which was kind of good because the market took a nosedive, and I
Oh.
sat on a beach instead of
Oh,
taking a nosedive with everybody.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I came back here and I went to work for one of the agents for Challenger Homes and worked for her for a bit and decided I want to do resale real estate again. And then, here I am, just selling away, right?
Yeah, and that's
And now building away.
and an exit. So, I mean, I would love to, from your perspective, right, what exit's about and why you're so passionate about it. I know we kind of had a little bit of a conversation before we went live, but just for everybody out there as to, what you've built and what you're building here, just a little bit about that. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so about 4.5 years ago, I was struggling a little bit on whether I wanted to stay in the industry or not. And I hadn't been in the industry long. And, maybe I needed a full-time job instead of trying to build this thing. And I walked into Exit Realty Pikes Peak, who was owned by another titan of real estate, Cheryl White.
Yeah.
And I interviewed with Mark, her husband, and he said, what if we could take this business plan that you have here and build this for you? You help us build this, we help you build this. And, just what he had to say about the company and about how things worked. I was intrigued, skeptical, because, I wanted to be the little mom and pop brokerage, not a franchise name. So I was always kind of skeptical about franchise names. And I said, all right, let's do this. And I signed up with Pikes Peak and went to work. And Exit Realty really just blew me away.
Okay.
You've met our CEO, Tammy Bunnell.
Wonderful professional.
She's phenomenal. And Steve Morris, our founder, he had this plan. He dreamed it up in the middle of the night, 3:17 or 18 in the morning to be exact, and said, I'm going to put this together for realtors. Most realtors in our industry, they don't have a retirement plan.
Right.
They don't have a backup plan. They're working check to check, commission to commission, and they're already counting the commission on the table before it gets to the table,
Right.
And that's not a way to grow your business. It's just not. So Exit has what we call a sponsoring program.
Okay.
And it's a residual program, so it fills in the gaps in between closings.
Cool.
By sponsoring, since we're an invitation-only company, by sponsoring other like-minded individuals into your company. So, and then we have a retirement program for that as well, and a beneficiary program. So if something happened to me right now today, I have this background and this little piece that I can give to my husband so that he can remember that I'm still out there somewhere, probably haunting him. I hope he's watching this right now. But yeah, so I have this little piece that I can still provide for my family even if I'm not here. And that kind of just really resonated with me.
Right.
And then I went to our convention. I met all these phenomenal brokers. Hi, my Exit family. I love you guys.
That's awesome.
From all across the country, and it's really collaborative. Like Tiffany Lynn in Mississippi, she's been inspirational for my office design. Tammy Bunnell, I just spent a week with her, and Steve Morris, our founder, and Bob McKinnon, all of these big names in real estate and these leaders, and I sat with them and actually broke bread with them, hung out with them, listened to them, learned from them. So it's incredible to be part of a company that is so big on a corporate level. And like we talked about off camera, a lot of corporations don't have that.
Right.
But I know that if I email or I call Tammy Bunnell or Steve Morris, they might not answer the phone right now because we're all busy, right? But they'll call me back.
Wow.
And it won't be they'll call me back in a week or they'll email me through somebody else. No, they're personal. They're there. Anytime I pick up the phone or send an email, they're there. And so what we like to say is we're reinventing real estate.
Wow.
And we're a human-driven company. We want to be. Oh God, I can't even say enough good things about how incredible it is.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just. Can you feel it?
Yes, hopefully everybody feels his energy. I feel it. I mean, and Brandy, as we were discussing, again off camera before we went live, I mean, it's a culture, and the leadership that you're associating yourself with, you are that leader in our community for your operation, and hopefully everybody's really feeling that vibe. Reach out to Brandy anytime you need to, but I think that this is really, really good segue into a portion of your why. Yeah. I mean, because I think that really speaks volumes. I mean, what drives you, what motivates you to do what you do to the level you do it at?
Well, I don't come from a place where we had a lot of money growing up, but my parents always made it very... they always made us feel like we were well taken care of. There was never a point where I felt like, I didn't have new shoes or I didn't have this or I didn't have that. But part of my why is my kids. I have a son. He is 19 now. He graduated high school last year, and he is, out of all four of my kids, the kid that's really kind of conservative about things like money and about... not asking for things. So there'd be a lot of times that I would watch him see something and I knew he wanted it, but he would never ask me because it would be, we can't afford it. And we're military. We lived on one income for quite some time before I was doing the real estate stuff. But, and I tell the story to people because it really hits me very hard.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that I do what I do is that boy. And there was a pair of Air Jordans, and he had never asked me for sneakers like that, but there was this pair of navy blue Air Jordans, and he goes to Widefield High. He went to Widefield High School, so that's one of their colors. Cool. And I was able to buy those for him. Like, he was like, "No, Mom, those are really expensive," and I didn't have to say, "Yeah, you're right, they are." No, I was like, "No, you're getting these shoes." So that was.
Beautiful.
That's like a huge deal for me to be able to say that I was able to do that. Right. So that's part of my why. But the other real big part of my why is people. I want to take care of people without being their mother, without being completely submersed and involved in their life. But if I can change their lives for the better and help them, that's my driving force. Whether it be in a real estate transaction, whether it be a new agent that wants to start their career in this business, or whether it be an agent who's just looking for something else to get them to the next level. I want to be that person. I want to be that company. I want to be, able to do that for them. So really, honestly, yes, you ask what is your why. People say their family, people say people say whatever. But that's really intense for me. Like, my family is my drive. My friends are my drive. And then people, just people. I love people every single day. Every single day, whatever I can do to touch or change their life is important to me.
And I know that that's a fact, as you can feel your energy coming through, but your reputation in the community, obviously with your clients and repeat business, but then your team that you're building. I mean, the love and the support is there. You wouldn't have the success that you have today if none of that existed. Right. And that's so important. And again, for true professionals out there, that's the true mentality of a top professional and a true class act to me. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because everything you said is super important. And it gives everybody a little deeper window into Brandy. So let's go into the next question, which is the advisory portion here. And it's actually a crowd pleaser when it comes to the newer or seasoned professionals. They really want to know what the Titans have done to grow and scale their business, really take it from a certain level to another. So if you could look back at your career thus far and pick or choose one or two things that you might have added to your business that took it from one level to the next, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, I joined Exit Realty. That was
Wow, okay, there we go.
That's my shout out.
Very
Like,
good.
that was the changing point. And I truly, honestly believe if I hadn't been in that place at that time and joined that specific company,
Okay.
that I wouldn't have gotten to the next level. I needed the people that I had in my life at that moment.
Okay.
And I needed what they could offer and how they could grow me. So I put systems into place that Exit had. We had top technology and training, and I
Love
paid
it.
attention to all of that.
Okay.
I learned how to build my bio and my internet presence. And I'd been an agent before that.
Right.
But 2005, 6, 7, that was like just when, you know, social media and stuff like that was really starting to grow. We were still looking at prints
Right.
to get real estate listings to show our people.
This is true.
So, yeah, first I joined Exit.
Okay.
And then I would say the biggest game changer after that for me was going to our convention, and Brian Buffini was there.
Oh, okay.
So Brian Buffini spoke at our convention 2 years ago, and I implemented Peak Producer, Buffini's system, Peak Producer.
Love it.
And the moment I put that system into my business, I went from here to here. And I had already went from here to here to here, and then it just exploded. So if I could give anybody any advice for one kind of training program and system, and it's all about what you're going to use.
Agreed.
So, you know, CRMs, shiny new objects, and I had to get over shiny new object syndrome. That took me a little bit.
Everybody's there.
Right?
There's a lot of us that are
There's a
still
lot
there.
of tacky and tools you can use, but that's kind of the biggest turning point for me. I had already leveled up, and I was good with where I'd leveled up, and then Buffini kind of turned the switch on in my head.
Wow.
And I was already close to my people, but that just made me even closer, because I was like, wow, this is stuff I should have been doing anyway, or stuff I was kind of already doing. I just needed to hone in on it, and that Buffini system just gave me the ability to do it. Best $395 I ever spent.
Right there, you heard it here. And if Brian's watching, hey Brian, I think that, you know, just for, I always try to be the thought process of the audience as it's coming through, and you said so many beautiful things. Finding that right place for you with the right people,
Right.
and that culture is important. The mentorship, you know, having support and growing through it, and that's important. So I love that you had mentioned that. Setting up and guiding your own systems, and not necessarily the next shiny object, but really understanding them, utilizing them, and then full implementation or action,
Right.
you've been able to continue to grow. Then you took it to a whole nother level by, you know, hiring a coach, going through that process of, you know, learning from somebody in different perspectives. We can all grow to a certain point on our own, but no one really does it alone.
Right.
And I love
Ever.
the fact that you mentioned that. I mean, there's so many people out there that are thinking, oh gosh. Now, when you got in front of, you know, the Brian Buffini sort of scenario, what was the tipping point for you to say, now's time? Because you could have done that through any time in your career. Was there a certain push point, or was it just good timing, or?
Just hearing everybody has a story, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of why you do this show.
Sure.
And Brian Buffini has a crazy story, and actually hearing that live was, you know, like, wow. But, and I'm going to is it okay for me to give a shout out?
Yes. Shout out all day.
I bought the Buffini system with plans to implement it, and I'm going to do this. But Christine Callender, if you're listening, Christine Callender from Exit Realty Pikes Peak is the reason that I implemented Buffini.
Wow.
Because she came out of nowhere crazy and was like, I bought this system, and we're gonna, you know, hold each other accountable.
Wow.
And she, at that point, was, you know, pretty new in the industry, and I felt like, oh, okay.
Here we go.
Whew, all right. So she was my accountability person.
Love it.
And so I couldn't let her down, you know, right? And I'm super competitive.
Sure.
So, you know, I had to make sure that I stayed up with her, and we did this whole win the day, win the week kind of scenario. But yeah, that's why I did it. I did it because it was a challenge for me to do it, and because somebody else was like, let's hold each other responsible for this, you know. I just didn't know the serious impact it would actually make on my business and on my life.
Wow.
You know, my mom was living here for a while, and she would help me do the flyers and the mailers, and, you know, so I think his system you implement into your real estate career, but you really can do some things with that have life-changing experiences. And the way he does it for you and the way you implement it, you just never know what he tells you to do, and then when you actually implement that and you knock on the door of somebody's house that you haven't seen in a little bit, and something's happened with them, and they're like, I needed you right now in this moment. I needed you, or right now they say something that right now I needed. So it's really just about relationships and building those relationships. So yeah, I don't know why everybody doesn't do that in this industry, but yeah.
What's wrong with everybody? Come on, Brandy did it. Look at the success here. I mean, this is so good, and there's so many takeaways for everybody. So hopefully you're feverishly taking notes. Mental notes, writing them down. No, this is good. This is super good. And you can watch this again. You can pause it. You can listen to it on audio file. Brandy's here. You can call her, right? I mean, It's all there. So this is huge advice. This has been super great. I do want to shift gears and go to the next question. And this is a tricky part of this interview in the series. It's the challenge question. So I always kind of tee it up with, we all have challenges in our lives. No one's exempt, right? Whether it's in the past, now, or into the future. We all deal with hard times. It's not so much what happens, but how we respond. So if you're comfortable with sharing a challenge that you dealt with, that you overcame, you came stronger because of it, what's that look like for you, Brandy?
Oh, I have a couple.
Okay.
And I'm happy to share my deep story with anybody off camera. But on camera, I would say, I grew up in a tiny town, and I always just kind of didn't feel like I was ever going to fit there. I always wanted to do something bigger.
Interesting.
And in fact, going back there now, my little sister's a trooper there, and, her husband's the sheriff's deputy. So, and my other little sister lives there, and my dad still lives there. So it's a beautiful town, but I don't think I would have been successful. And my version of success is not living in a small town and...
Sure.
It's just not me. So that was one of my biggest challenges, was leaving home and joining the Army.
Okay.
And hoping and praying that everybody that said you'll never make it, that I could prove them wrong. So I'm really big on when someone tells me you can't do this, my next words are watch me.
Yes, this is awesome.
So that's kind of, challenges and struggles are always how you grow and where you come from. So what do you do now, and how do you adjust your life? And, I'm divorced and remarried, and that's a challenge and a struggle.
Right.
I'm a blended family. My 2 older children are from my previous marriage. So you struggle with that, and you add being a military family and moving constantly, you struggle with that. My husband spent 7 deployments away from home, so you struggle with that. And my son was born and he wasn't here. That's, so you struggle and adjust and you adapt and overcome to whatever your situation is. And then, I was telling you before, I struggled last year. I had a great year in real estate. And, thank you to all the people that supported me in that. But I just didn't feel like I was getting any traction or doing anything other than, doing more transactions and having more money and, spending more time, and it wasn't fulfilling me anymore. Like, yes, the people and what I was doing was fulfilling me, but I want to do something bigger than that. I want to go somewhere bigger than that. So the challenge for me this year and the struggle for me this year has been, where do you go? Do you do this? Do you write a bunch of checks? Do you take on a rent? Do you take on, and I that's something I wrestled with in my head, and what I had to make sure that I put down and way deep down was all of those voices that say, you're going to fail, or you're not going to make it, or what if you don't make it, or what if the bottom falls out of the market tomorrow? So what? So what? It's just funny. I know that I have a support system and people that love me and care about me. And I have amazing agents that are taking it to the next level too. So, that's kind of where I come from. You know, you deal with your struggles as you go through, and it's never going to be one thing that was a struggle that took you to where you are now. It's steps and pieces and everything that happens along the way that actually shapes now, that shapes and changes and makes you who you are. So, that's...
Well, that was awesome, Brandy, and that was super well said. I mean, everybody out there, hopefully you're really processing this as I have. I mean, there's so much that we all deal with, and you shared so many tough times and things to challenge and struggle, but you kept pushing forward, you kept moving forward, positive attitude, really having your priorities and everything.
It's not always like that. Like, I'm just like every other person. I have days where I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed today. And I have days where I'm like, I just can't do this today.
Mm-hmm.
And the advice I would give to people is when you feel that way, talk to someone that's mentored you, or been a standing figure in your life, or talk to your spouse, or talk to somebody, or take a day for yourself.
Sure.
We get burned out in this industry so quickly.
So true.
And it's not hard for you to get sidetracked, and not, one day turns into 2 days, turns into 3 days, and before you know it, you're like, I've been, I got a beard.
Right.
I got a beard,
Where'd
right?
that happen? What happened there?
So, no. You have a beard, Greg.
That's right. Where did that come from? There's grays in there, too. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's, we all struggle with that, but get up and go anyway. Get up and do it anyway.
I love that. And that's kind of the adage that I was always brought up to, is those days where you really don't feel like it, you really need to.
Right.
Those are the days. When it's easy, it's easy. So I think there's so much good. And one big takeaway that I had over so much, and I know that there's so many other takeaways, so if anybody out there has points that really stick out to them, or topics you want to go through, please put comments below. Reach out to Brandy. We can go deeper. But it's your product of talking about knowing when to jump. And we all have those jump points, right? And it's tough, and there's all those voices, and you're going to fail, or that's a mistake, or there's never right timing, there's never enough money, this is a bad market. But you do your due diligence, you surround yourself with great people, and then at the end of the day, you follow your heart, your gut, and you go for it. You have to take the action. Like we said earlier, no risk, no reward.
Right, exactly.
So I love that. I mean, your message is amazing. So again, thank you so much for sharing. It's not easy to air your stuff out in front of everybody, so I truly appreciate that, Brandy. Really, really do. I want to go to a softer question, if that's all right.
Okay.
And this is actually one of my favorite ones. It's the travel back in time question. So if you could travel back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice or two, any stage of your life, what would you say to young Brandy?
1995 college, Brandy.
Oh, okay. All right.
I would say, don't drink that.
Okay. That's awesome.
And then for just all of those struggle points in my life, that, Brandy, I would say, stop listening to what other people say. Just stop it.
Wow.
Stop listening to what other people say and go with your gut and your heart and what you want to do.
Love it. And that advice, obviously the college age, I think we've all gone back and said, maybe we shouldn't have drank that.
Maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't have social media.
That's right, back then, thank goodness. But I think that your point into that is really, we all get so caught up. And when I say we all, there's a lot of professionals that want to please everyone, or they listen, or they're concerned.
In our business.
It's crazy, right? And just, you need to try to have your close people to advise you, that you trust. They're not just throwing shade on you, but they're being very honest, and let everybody else just back away and do what you want to do for your life and your family and for your community. That's huge advice for everybody to take away. Everybody who's watching or listening, not just younger Brandy, so I think that's really good stuff. That's so true to take away. Now, next question into this, and this is actually crowd pleaser number 2, is the feeding of the mind portion. So everybody wants to know what the Titans are feeding their minds, how they're mentally growing and really changing the markets that they're working in into their heads, and then personally, professionally. So I always lead into it with books you're reading or have read, podcasts you're listening to or have listened to, or influencers on social media. You already mentioned Brian, but anything else on top of that? So books, podcasts, influencers.
So I have a routine, and every day in the morning when I get up, I turn on Prompter. It's an app. Okay. It was developed by Steve Morris, the founder of our company.
Cool.
And I turn on that app, and I write my affirmations every day. We're firm believers in affirmations at Exit, and we really stand by that. And I really do feel like that has made a big difference in my life in doing that. So first thing I do is affirmations. Okay. And then I have a few podcasts I listen to. One is the Podcast.
Okay.
Scott Stratton.
Yeah.
He's got some great books, him and his wife, and they do a great podcast, and they talk about different businesses and stuff like that. And they're phenomenal and
Cool.
funny, so it's kind of a good get you going kind
Yeah.
of podcast. And I listened just recently. I started listening to the Real Estate Titans podcast.
Awesome,
Yeah,
Brandy. Thank you.
And then,
Thank you.
our own Bob McKinnon from Exit, he has a podcast called The Leader's Path.
Oh, great.
And so I listen to that podcast, and I try to read books too.
Okay.
There's one by my bed, and when I have a night where I can't sleep or I have a morning where I'm still trying to get going, I pop into a book.
Love it.
Just random books that I read. And so really podcasts are fairly new to me, but I've been trying to get going on those, and the Prompter app's a really big one for me. And then for fun, I just listen to John Jay and Rich.
Okay.
Podcast,
Yes,
right?
love it. Well, you gotta have a mix, right?
Right. So I need something to make me laugh sometimes. Yeah.
Yes, no, and that's super good. So, and I love that you're diverse into, it's business, it's affirmation, it's physical books, it's podcasts, it's humor. I think that that's a really healthy way to feed your mind and grow, and it always changes, right? We're
Yeah.
evolving. Everybody out there, just so you know, as always, I'm going to have links in the comments down below so that you can learn and grow the same way that Brandy is to really grow and scale your mind and your business. Brandy, this has been phenomenal. Your information has really been amazing, super compelling, tons of takeaways. I want to wrap this whole thing up with a final question.
Mm-hmm.
And this ends up being a quote or a mantra that you live by that sums you up as a person, a professional. What's that look like for Brandy Brown?
So this I did write down, so
Yes.
I didn't mess it up.
Love it. This is perfect.
I have two.
Okay.
Love all, trust few, do wrong to none. And that's a William Shakespeare quote.
Wow.
And then the second one is, being born with sight and no vision would be worse than being born blind. And that's a Helen Keller quote. So I have a lot of quotes that inspire me and push me and drive me. But those two just kind of resonate and stand out. Love all, trust few, do wrong to none. And that's kind of the golden rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the golden rule in the way we should treat each other and move forward in our lives. And that's the person I aspire to be for my children. And it's not always easy.
Sure.
There's just one thing that's making you crazy, and you have to refocus your vision and go back to making sure that you are living by your quotes and your mantras, and you can get off sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then that being born with sight and no vision would be worse than being born blind. And I really think, if you have an idea and a vision and you don't share it with the world, you're doing yourself and the entire world a huge disservice.
Wow. All right. I love that. I mean, that hits me so hard. I think this is super great. And Brandy, that sums you up beautifully all the way through and through, personally, professionally, the whole line. I am honored to have you. You are an official Real Estate Titan. Thank you so much for taking the time. Everybody, thank you so much for your love and support, your time and attention. If you like what we're doing here at Real Estate Titans, don't forget to subscribe to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts for the audio format. Also, don't forget about YouTube and liking our Facebook page. Live every Tuesday and Friday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody on the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. And we are almost...